I'm Kieran Murphy. I play in Old Devil. I'm the vocalist.
Hi, I'm Nick and I play bass in the band Old Devil.
Old Devil's a post-hardcore band from Perth, Western Australia.
The pulpit knows as the choir voices raise.
The album title is L'appell Du Vide, which is the French saying for the call of the void. The call of the void is that feeling you get when you're standing on the edge of a cliff and you're like, what if I just jumped off? Or you're driving your car down the road and you're like, what if I just veered my car off to the side? I know I've had that feeling before, and I always felt really, really weird for having that feeling. But the more I spoke to people and the more I talked to people, they were like, oh yeah, I totally have that too. And when I expanded that out to a more global perspective, it just kind of put humanity in the same basket. Everybody's got that call of the void. Everybody has this appetite for destruction. It's the reason why some people drink themselves into oblivion. They know it's bad for themselves, but they still do it anyway, and drugs and all those kind of things. And I think we've kind of got this real dark side to us as humanity. Of course, we've got a good side, but I think the dark side sometimes just takes over a little bit. We see that with world leaders all the time. They just do dumb shit that I just really don't understand why they do, and it causes just a complete mess for everyone. And I think to some point that is L'appell Du Vide. The story behind L'appell Du Vide comes from three places. So there is a person that grows up and becomes the president, who initiates World War III. World War III ends up destroying the world. For me, I feel like even though we're probably already in a state of war, we probably only got one good war left in us and then we're done. The other side of the story comes from a family within the world that L'appell Du Vide exists, and they have no part in the war, but they're experiencing things changing around them and experiencing this hurtling towards destruction. And then the other character within the story is a cosmonaut, and this cosmonaut basically goes off to try and find a new planet because our one's completely stuffed. And when that cosmonaut comes back, after trying to find a planet, the planet it comes back to has been destroyed. We wanted to tell it from three different perspectives. We didn't want to write songs that really didn't mean much to us. We didn't want to write songs about love lost and girls and all that kind of stuff, because that doesn't mean anything to me. That's not something that I really want to talk about, and other people do it much better than what I do. There's lots of different themes on the album, and some real world themes. There's a song about pollution. Everybody watched the disaster live on TV. That's about global warming. And how we just choose to ignore it for some bizarre reason. There is a song about gun crime. That's the bird that sank the boat. And then there's a song about the church and how it covers up all the heinous things that it's done over the years to the people that devote themselves to that religion. What I wanted to do is create something a little bit more interesting, something that you could kind of sink your teeth into, and maybe on the second and third listen you could kind of relate the stories back. And I'm sure there's portions of the album that people would relate to their own life experiences. But for me, it's more of a story. It's a fictional world, but not too dissimilar from the one that we already live in. The album started to be recorded in January 2017. All the songs had been kind of written up until that point. There was nothing left to write. And Josh, the other guitarist, and I decided we can do this ourselves. In our naivety, we thought we can sit in a living room until stupid hours in the morning and record the album, just dry signals, and then send those all over to a producer and hey presto, you've got an album. Didn't quite work out that way. Josh and I quickly realized just how shoddy we were at recording instruments. And Matt Templeman, in a very, very lovely and nice way, like he does everything, just kind of took us aside and said, look, this is not working. I've tried this, it's not working. Come into the studio, let's do it in a studio setting where I can give you instant feedback on the spot. And I'm so thankful for that, because listening to the result that he got from the album versus the kind of the test mix that he did, it's leaps and it bounds above. And as a result of that, Josh and I have become better musicians. The album for me feels like a big step up from the EP. We made a few lineup changes to incorporate that. I stepped off playing guitar and I just moved to vocals. Just because what I was writing, I really couldn't do both things justice enough at the same time. So I stepped off guitar and we needed to draft basically a person to replace me. So Josh, who had left the band just for a little bit, just to take a little bit of a break from music, he rejoined the band. Will moved away from bass and moved on to guitar, something that he's wanted to do. He feels way more comfortable playing that. And then I ran into Nick, and Nick Roberts plays in Surroundings and in Altona. And I kept running into him in the studio, and Matt kind of brought it up to me and he was like, hey, what about Nick? Nick likes your band, maybe you should get him involved. And I basically just harassed Nick and wouldn't leave him alone until he agreed to play on the album. He came in and that really changed the direction of the album for me. He managed to complement my vocals like I hadn't really had anybody do before. His bass playing was awesome. He had such a cool raspiness and tone to his voice that I really, really loved. And the more that I think Nick was playing on the album, the more I was like, this guy's got to stay.
When Kieran asked me to join Old Devil, originally I was only supposed to be a live member. And I was like, yep, look, Old Devil is one of my favorite bands from Perth. I'm going to jump on this. But as time went on and the songs sort of started to change and that, Kieran was getting me to get involved in like the vocals, and we started doing more melodies and like 3-part harmonies, and like it just started to be this like huge thing. Before I joined the band, I was also recording an album with my other band Surroundings and my other band Altona. I sing in Surroundings and I sing and play guitar in Altona. Trying to track 3 albums at once was just, it was ludicrous and stupid, and I would not recommend anyone do it, because it was it was painful and taxing, very, very mentally draining. But at the same time, like, I've released 2 albums this year, about to release a 3rd, and it's very like rewarding to have that much music that's had my mark put on it, which is really, that's rewarding and what I really want to do with my life. So yeah, it's good.
So now the band feels a lot more cemented as a result of that recording process. Cal, our old drummer, left in the middle of that album process to concentrate more on being a father, and music really wasn't kind of working in conjunction with that. And now we've got this amazing drummer in Lindsay, who also plays in Surroundings and plays in Carthasy as well. And that's just taken everything again to another level. Band-wise, the biggest influences on me growing up were Thrice, Brand New, Manchester Orchestra, and Circus Survive. So I tried to incorporate little bits and pieces of those bands that I really liked into some of the music. Even just some lyrics in there are references to lyrics that I heard on the other albums.
As a musician, as a person, like I've always loved like Funeral for a Friend, Norma Jean, Converge, like a lot of like sort of metalcore to, you know, post-hardcore or like chaotic hardcore and stuff. So, you know, I've always leaned into those sorts of bands, and you know, dig the sort of like southern rock stuff that Old Devil were doing on the EP and that. So it was really awesome to get like brought back into the album and see the sort of new direction that they were sort of taking.
My favorite track on the album is Preacher, the opening track. I just think that drum beat at the start, when Cal wrote that, we just knew that that was going to be a killer track. And I really like the message behind it as well, because I harbor so much contempt and disgust for all of the things that the church chooses to hide and they never get held accountable for. So if this is my way of having a stab at them and a few people hear it, so be it. But I really like the message. The chorus is super powerful for me as well. I get to have a bit of fun with it when I'm kind of playing it live as well. Yeah, definitely Preacher.
I think my favorite track on the album would probably be the title track, L'appell Du Vide. Like every time the guitar intro comes, it's like this ominous, chilling atmosphere, and it drudges on, and the vocals come in, and it just sets the scene. And like with the storyline, like that's the pivotal moment. Like literally just thinking about it now, it just gives me chills. Like every time I hear that song, the guitar intro, the vocal intro, everything about it, just all the tension that the album has set up, the storyline of the family that are experiencing the knock-on effects of this World War III that we've created. It's the one man's thoughts to just be like, I'm gonna take my destiny into my own hands. I'm not a part of this war. My family shouldn't die from someone else. I'm gonna take their lives and myself. And that's what that song sort of sets up in the intro, and throughout the rest of the song, it's just that, it's that looming like foreshadowing of dread, like, you know, that calling of the void that this person's decided, you know, just that song. I don't know, it's huge, it's heavy, and it's like, I get chills thinking about it every time.
So the album was going to be called something else, which is a few lyrics that get called out a number of times on the album, but it wasn't catchy enough. And as soon as I said, hey guys, what about L'appell Du Vide, which was already a name of a song on the album, we were in the studio and everybody was like, yeah, that's it, that's the one. And since then, it's stuck, and 18 months down the track, I still love that title. I still think it's cool, and it's cool to have a talking point as the name of the album as well. People ask what it means, and it's nice to be able to dip my toe into the water of telling the story before people have heard the album. So hopefully that shines through when people listen to it. Hopefully people can see what I'm trying to convey with L'appell Du Vide. From conception, writing, the album probably took about 2 years. Probably a little bit longer than what I wanted it to be, but in the end, I really hope that the destination is justified by the journey, but only time will tell, I guess.
I took my wife in my bed.